Welcome back to the Facebook studios at Raisina, and we are joined this time by Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadauria, who is the current Chief of Air Staff of the Indian Air Force and assumed office on 30th September. Uh, Welcome to the show, sir, and welcome to the Raisina Dialogue. This is your first time with us, and we are delighted you could join us.
Thank you.
So, since this format is short and snappy and quick, I'm going to jump straight into the questions that many of our audience would perhaps want to engage with. The first one being the larger question of India's role in being a net security provider, and in that context, is the Indian Air Force in a good shape to play the role of a stabilizing actor in a region that is clearly dynamic and evolving?
Oh yes, very clearly yes. Over the recent years, I think we have modernized and enhanced our capability fairly well, and we can play a significant role in providing, being a part of the net security provider. We have enhanced our airlift capability. We have the C-17, C-130s. Today we can take about 300 tons to 6,000 kilometers in one wave, single wave, and we can repeat it practically every 6 hours. So the capability is huge. If you're talking of shorter ranges, up to 3,000 in immediate neighborhood area, 3,000 kilometers, we could lift 600 tons in one wave. In terms of helicopters, we could provide any number of helicopters. So in terms of HADR, providing the regional support, the capability is huge. Also, we have developed in consonance with the Navy. As you are aware, Navy is a major player in providing the net security in the Indo-Pacific and the region. And we have developed a maritime capability in support of the Navy. And we have huge offensive defensive capability also, which is expanding. So as a net security provider, we are there.
Which are the new acquisitions that you think are going to give you greater teeth? For example, what does the acquisition of the Rafale fighter aircraft do for our capabilities?
You know, Rafale is a game changer as far as capability is concerned, primarily because it has weapons which are modern, which have huge edge over the adversaries in the region. It has technology which is much better. It has sensors which are better. So in the ability to see first and shoot first, shoot longer, deliver weapons to longer ranges, it is providing us a big capability jump. So in the overall context, if we use Rafale along with other assets that we have, Su-30 and the other fleets, it will give us a huge capability jump.
And therefore, so some worry that the whole thrust towards indigenization, which is important, is it going to implicate our fifth generation ambitions, fifth generation aspirations? Or do you think indigenization is the route to build a robust, sustainable presence?
In my view, clearly, indigenization is the real long-term answer. I'm very clear about it. And that's the reason why we have gone in for AMCA 5th generation as an indigenous development. It is important to have these indigenous capabilities, because if we don't step in now with this indigenous capability, we'll never be able to do it. There are technologies that are involved, there are sensor capabilities, there are weapons, and there is data fusion, the AI needs to step in. So this is the time that we really need to get into indigenous. Fifth generation is not the only thing. We are also supporting indigenous LCA. 83 is about to be signed. We need to go in for LCA Mark II quickly. And the important areas, I think, is for the indigenous industry to get their act together correctly, step up the production rates, ensure quality. So these are the areas that we really need to look at and get it right.
Besides just the weapon systems or the aircrafts, there is also a whole structural change that policy makers have been contemplating. And one of them is clearly the appointment of the CDS. And now with the CDS in place, one, do you think reforms of the military architecture, is that likely to change and evolve? And in that particular context, what about the theater command, something that Air Force has been vocal about in the past? What happens to those conversations?
No, CDS is a big and a very bold step. Of course, the structure will change. We need to bring in jointness. We need to change our structures to ensure integration, synergize our efforts. Air Force has been vocal not as a philosophy to oppose jointness. No, not at all. It was vocal against the theatre concept. That was the way it was kind of projected and the
Conceptualized.
way it was being conceptualized by think tanks and by people who are writing about it. And you must realize when the resources are less, when you're already facing a drawdown and you're on the upswing in terms of intakes, you cannot divide your assets and lock them up in theaters. So, in terms of our Air Force capability, the core issue is flexibility. The core issue is to bring capability to bear in the time and space at the time of choosing.
Correct.
Okay, and therefore, any kind of theaterization which will reduce this flexibility is bad.
Correct.
Finally, we have to synergize our effort in terms of resources and do more.
So we have to put more thought into how you can.
No, we have to get the structure right.
The structure.
So the joint structures that we need to make, and we are in discussion, and the CDS has already said that we are going to have our own model of how we are going to come up with our joint structures, and we would discuss. And idea is to maintain our core strengths and do the jointness and bring the right structure up. So there will be joint structures that will come up, and they would be appropriate to how we should never copy a system. You cannot just copy a US system or a Chinese system and say, no, this is best for us.
So you will have to create a contextual jointness structure.
Absolutely.
That serves our purpose.
That serves our purpose, that serves our asset, that will give us the bigger punch that we are looking for with the same resources.
Suppose the Balakot incident, the Air Force's intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities were under scrutiny. There were articles written, and again, many by think tankers, by commentators. Where are we in terms of these capabilities? And do we have the necessary technology for the wider Indo-Pacific space to be able to be that net security provider we spoke about?
You see, actually it wasn't an ISR issue which was under scrutiny. It was more of a battle damage to give us the pictures of where you've hit and what kind of damage and the body counts, etc. And you are aware of those debates. So it was something because of the way the weather and other issues were that we had a plan to have the battle damage assessment, but that didn't work out. That we didn't have those pictures, and the satellite pictures that came up later, which when the clouds cleared up, those indicated the hits, etc. So ISR wise, it's a different issue. We have ISR assets already. We have fully integrated it, but in the time to come, we have to really modernize our ISR asset. That there is no doubt, especially in terms of space and especially in terms of other areas that we need to get in. In terms of the region that you are talking about as a net security provider, our ISR assets currently are fairly adequate. It is from a military perspective that we need to increase our ISR capability.
And is that something we are thinking about?
Of course, of course.
Excellent. Now, how is the Air Force looking at incorporating emerging technologies? The future of conflict is going to be very different. The region is, again, a dynamic and evolving, fluid region in terms of threats. Are we looking at UCAVs and UAVs and unmanned vehicles as a possible force structure of the future?
Two aspects of emerging technologies. First, the fifth generation itself, is a huge jump in terms of emerging technologies. And that's why, again, we are emphasizing that while fifth generation aircraft is understood in a particular standard of preparation, we are attempting to go well beyond in terms of technology, sensors, AI that needs to be brought in, heavy data fusion, data analytics, reduce the loop. So in terms of technologies, the fifth generation will be our driver in terms of aircraft technologies. Similar technologies go into the any UCAV.
Correct.
Similar technologies. Correct. So that growth is required, and thereafter we'll use. I think you're asking whether UCAVs will have an increasing role. Of course, as we go along, UCAVs will have an increasing role, and that is one of the issues that we are looking at. We already have a plan of HAIL and MAIL series of UAVs. We have a plan of kind of weaponizing some existing UAVs. In the long run, the UCAVs are the answer, and the ability to have the fifth generation aircraft fly along with UCAVs, control it, fly in conjunction. These are all issues that we are looking at, and we are going towards it.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir, and we look forward to your intervention this evening at the Raisina dinner, and we will be back with one more important person, more voices and more debates at the Facebook studios at Raisina Dialogue. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.